All right, now with us on the guest line, very happy to have this man, legendary boxing voice, International Boxing Hall of Famer, and a man who on August 26th, deservedly so, I might add, will have a hot microphone for Showtime's broadcast, Mayweather versus McGregor. Al Bernstein is with us. Al, John, Anna, Kenny, Florian here. Appreciate a few minutes today. How are you?
John, good to be with you. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. So I'm sure you get asked to quantify big fights and how they feel to you relative to other mega fights. Is that
Right.
something that is hard for you to gauge, maybe harder to gauge until fight week? Or for this one, does it feel to you as massive as it does to us?
Yeah, that's a good question. Sometimes it is better. You get a better feeling of it the week of the fight because you get the feeling of where it's headed. But then there are other times, like I would say Mayweather-Pacquiao is a good example. Or in the old days, from that batch of fights that I worked, when I was 10 years old, the Hagler-Hearns and Hearns-Leonard, you knew those. You could feel those weeks in advance. I would say this fight is one of those ones that you can feel already the sense of them in terms of how many people are interested.
I would imagine it has a different feel for you in terms of the preparation. As many of our listeners, I'm sure, know you've had some exposure to mixed martial arts, but what is the biggest challenge or some of them for you in preparing to call a fight involving a mixed martial arts athlete as opposed to just a pure boxer?
Yeah, it's very difficult because when I was privileged to do play-by-play on some I've done maybe 6 or 7 MMA shows in my life, and I enjoyed all of them. While it was hard for me to make sure that I did the sport justice by not, screwing up basic things and not being ignorant. I stayed in my lane, and I did a lot of research on the sport, and they were doing mixed martial arts, so it was okay. This one is different because it's a boxing match, and for Conor McGregor, we have virtually no intel on how well he can do as a boxer. He had 40 amateur fights, and then the rest of his career is MMA. So you can only glean from watching him do MMA because, as you and your listeners well know, striking in MMA is very different than boxing. And so you look for certain things that would be helpful, other than the teensy little video that was released.
Huh.
Of Ian Pauly sparring, we don't have a lot of evidence of him working as a boxer. So it's extremely difficult. You have to extrapolate what you think he could do, and then here's what makes it even harder for this fight. We're talking about a Floyd Mayweather who is 40 years old and 2 years removed from the sport. I don't know what kind of disintegration there will be with Mayweather.
Al, is there any indication that you think that Floyd has kind of slowed down? When you look at his last fight, which was, I guess, almost 2 years ago now, the last few fights, did you see any slowing down of Floyd Mayweather?
Yeah, I didn't really. He's so technically sound, and in some cases, look, the last fight he fought was against Andre Berto, who's an okay fighter, but not great these days. And so, as a result of that, it was hard to discern whether there was disintegration and for Floyd or degradation of his overall skills. But I didn't see, there wasn't a huge amount of that. For instance, when Maidana fought him the first time, and I thought that fight was a draw. I really would have scored it a draw. I thought Maidana did great things against him, and that looked like it could be the beginning of Floyd Mayweather kind of slipping back. Well, he won the second fight against Maidana and legitimately won it, and fought better than he did in the first fight. So here he was coming back and fighting well. And so, I didn't see anything. But, earlier before that Showtime deal he signed where he did 6 fights and fought twice a year while he was doing them, which was rare for him, he had a couple of long layoffs in his earlier 30s where he didn't fight for a couple of years. And then he came back. And every time he came back, he was just as sharp as he was when he left, which is, very difficult to imagine. But what we don't know is, at age 40, after a 2-year layoff, will you be as sharp when you're coming back after a 2-year layoff?
And what are you hearing as far as, his work ethic? Because I've heard comments that he's not working as hard as he normally does.
I think a lot of that is probably salesmanship on their part. You know, to make the world feel that his big mission is making the world know that Conor McGregor has a shot in this fight. I mean, I think that's part of Floyd Mayweather, the businessman. When he puts his businessman hat on, you know, he released a statement saying he thinks he slowed down a little, and there's all these leaked rumors that he's been working as hard, et cetera. So I think some of that we have to take with a grain of salt.
And for this fight, do you think he's fighting for the money? Is he fighting for the spectacle, or is it both?
Mostly the money, I think.
Yeah.
and he likes, like every person who has ever been an entertainer or an athlete or anything, broadcaster, you could say it, you could throw them in there. Everyone enjoys being in the game. Everyone enjoys getting the spotlight. Everybody enjoys being a part of the action. And I think that's part of it, too. That's why people don't retire, right? I mean, at the end of the day. And in this case, that's probably maybe 40% of it.
Al Bernstein with us here on the Anakin Florian podcast. All right, so here we are, man, 11 days out, so you're calling the fight. I guess, thankfully, thereby not in position to have to give a prediction when pro, but based upon what you've seen and heard and read and everything you've ingested that is Conor McGregor, how would you assess his chances? Because, candidly, a lot of people are very dismissive, some people less so.
Yeah, right. I mean, there's a big continuum of that, as you point out. There's, on the one side, there's the people that say literally no chance at all. He'll never land a punch. I don't know about him never landing a punch in the fight. That's probably extreme. But I think the big issue for Conor McGregor, and you can speak to this as well as I can, I worry about his ability to sustain as the fight goes on. I worry about his, he does tend to have lulls later in even MMA fights. He has, I think the big issue is if we got to round 7, what Conor McGregor are we seeing at that point? That would be believe it or not, that's what, from a McGregor standpoint, I see as a major concern, because then Floyd Mayweather has ways of making fights go any distance he wants them to go, unless he is a very diminished Floyd Mayweather. So I think I believe McGregor could be mildly effective in some of the early rounds. And that's always the way Floyd Mayweather fights go anyway. Somebody will have limited success for 3 rounds. Then he, like working with an Rubik's Cube, he figures it out, Mayweather, and the rest of the fight goes the way he wants it to. So I could see that happening. But it's just hard to, you have to really stretch to find the place where you think, McGregor's going to really dominate him. But again, McGregor's the bigger man. Clearly, he's bigger and stronger. And so the question is, can he make that into something that will work in the boxing ring? I mean, it's a big ask of Conor McGregor for his first professional boxing match to fight in these circumstances and fight. If he was fighting a boxer who was standing in the pocket against him, a different kind of fighter, I'll tell you what, it would be I could see where some people would be saying to them, well, intriguing, but he's not. He's fighting this defensive master who is, even if his skills are diminished a bit, still has all that going for him.
Al, when I look at Floyd's career, I feel like when you try to have a traditional boxing approach against someone like Floyd, he'll piece you apart. A guy like Maidana, who was very unorthodox, not the slickest boxer in the world, but had amazing pace and conditioning, excellent chin, was able to kind of pressure him and make obviously a great fight out of it. I thought gave him his closest fight in that first one.
Yeah,
do you think Conor can do that?
Also years ago,
yeah, that's right. Do you think Conor can do that?
Well, you tell me. I've seen the video of him, and you are an MMA. You're an MMA expert. Can he doesn't always fight, even strike that way, right?
Right.
He's not. Correct me if I'm wrong, because you're a better judge of this. He likes more to stay on the outside and be at range striking.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to remake even that part of his game. Because, yes, he's physically stronger, and I think that would be his best approach. I think, personally, Conor McGregor's best approach is to literally try and walk through what he can walk through early in those fights, muscle Mayweather, be physical, not even worried about be worried about getting a point taken away. Trust me, for him to get disqualified in this match, he's going to have to kick him.
Right.
He'll get points deducted, but they're going to be slow to disqualify him. They just are, because these people all paid $1 zillion to see it. And I think his best hope is to rough him up, use his physical, physicality.
Yeah.
I don't know. You've seen Conor McGregor fight. He doesn't normally do that as a striker, does he?
He's not. He's more of the slick guy in MMA. In boxing,
right, exactly.
he might be.
That's the part.
In boxing, he might switch it up.
Made that fatal mistake against Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah.
He's bigger. He was stronger, probably. He decided to box Floyd Mayweather.
Right.
Now part of that was Mayweather himself making it difficult for Canelo to hit him, but Canelo was a willing participant in that.
Yeah.
Marvin Hagler, to this day, regrets he decided to box Sugar Ray Leonard for the first part of that fight. And fight right-handed. He wanted to prove he could outbox Ray Leonard, and that was a mistake.
Yep.
So, Al, did you enjoy mixed martial arts enough to get back to it if the opportunity presented itself?
I would love to call some more mixed martial arts matches. I love doing play-by-play on those, because I'll tell you, here's what I loved about it. I love doing play-by-play anyway. Even on boxing, when I do it, I take off my analyst hat, and I like being a facilitator and doing that. It's a different part. As you know, as broadcasters, we have different kind of, we try to use different skill sets. And when you do play-by-play correctly, as you do, you're the facilitator, you're going to give a few insights here and there. When I'm in mixed martial arts, of course, I'm not going to give them any insights. I'm simply going to be the facilitator, make sure I give all the information, make sure I don't get in the way of the color commentators, occasionally ask a question if it's not an absurd one. But I enjoyed the process a great deal. And I loved working. I got to work with Pat Miletich and Stephen Quadros. I did a show with Phil Baroni, who actually Phil did a great job. I thought it was fun. And who else? Frank Shamrock at one point.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed working with all these men who knew the sport and really, I thought explained it well. And I'll tell you what I learned, a valuable lesson. I learned that the ground game is interesting in MMA, that the people that denigrate it make a big mistake. And when you let the analysts explain it, for the most part, when the ground game's happening, if they do a good job of explaining it, it's pretty darn interesting. And one of the most exciting moments I had doing MMA, and in my book I likened it to one of the best knockouts. We had a fight in which I forget the two fighters, but somebody got somebody in a rear naked choke, and there was like 20 seconds left in the round, and literally the seconds were counting down as we waited to see would there be a tap out. And with 5 seconds left, there was a tap out. Now, in my mind, that's as exciting as a great knockout.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, you put it well as usual.
I love doing it. I thought it was fascinating, and I would be thrilled to do it again. I just, sometimes the opportunities don't come your way because of scheduling. I've been asked a couple times that I couldn't do it, and then other times you just, there's other people that are highly qualified to do it, so which is fine. I appreciate listening to great, the MMA announcers that do such a great job.
Well, you're gracious to give us 15 minutes today. I know it's a busy time. I mean, Ken Flo, this is a guy who's recorded an album. Are you still performing live music? I know you did that for a number of years.
I am. It's funny. I just got back to it more in the last, for fans that don't know, I did a lot of live performing here in Vegas. Started with the Tommy Hearns Sugar Ray Leonard match years and years ago when I did 3 nights at Caesar's Palace. And then over the years, I've done it off and on. I got away from it a little bit, but now I enjoy it so much. I said, you know what?